Hello and welcome to this video on forms of business, and today we're looking at sole traders and partnerships. In these series of videos we're going to be looking at two broad categories of business. We're going to be looking at unincorporated businesses and incorporated businesses, and today we're going to be focusing on sole traders and partnerships. In the next video, private limited companies and public limited companies. But the broad distinction between these two groups of companies or types of businesses is that the one on the left, the owner is the same legal identity as the business, which means there is no distinction in the eyes of the law between what the owner does and what the business does. The owner has unlimited liability for the business's actions, including its debts, which means the individual who owns the business is totally responsible for paying back all the debts, even using up their personal assets. Whereas on the right-hand side, incorporated businesses, this is where the owners of the business and the business itself are viewed differently in the eyes of the law. The business, in the eyes of the law, is an entity in its own right, and only the business is liable for the debts that they owe, and therefore they would have what we call limited liability. We'll come on to this a little bit more later in the course, but it's good to have an overview to start off with. So today we are going to look at the characteristics of sole traders and partnership businesses, and also look at the advantages and disadvantages of each type. Let's start off with a sole trader. This is the most common form of business type. And the sole trader model of business is where the sole trader is the only owner of the business. So there is one owner of the business, and that is the sole trader. The sole trader can employ people, but those employees don't share in the ownership of the business. They are just employees. Importantly, the sole trader owns all the business assets and is personally, and that is important, personally responsible for the business's debts. A sole trader has what we call in business unlimited liability. So let's say the sole trader is a caterer, and he sells a product to someone, a cake, and it gives them food poisoning, and that person wants to sue the caterer for damages, then the sole trader is liable, and their house and their belongings are liable to cover the expense of that claim. Let's look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of being this type of business. Well, advantages include that the owner keeps all the profit, which is important if you're motivated by profit. The owner has total control over what the business does, and it's quick and easy to set up. You can become a sole trader straight away. You can just start your business activities, but you must bear in mind that you have unlimited liability in that respect if something goes wrong. Disadvantage, well, there's no legal distinction between the owner and the business. They're viewed in the same legal identity in the eyes of the law. So the sole trader has unlimited liability. They are personally responsible for all the business's debts. So if the business owes £10,000 and you only have £5,000 in the bank, you may have to sell your car, you may have to sell your house to cover the debts of the business, because you are the business and therefore you owe that money yourself. Depending on the amount of profit made, a sole trader may pay more tax than an incorporated business, because they will be paying income tax rather than corporation tax. Let's move on to partnerships. A partnership is where the business is owned by more than one person. Okay, so we've got more than one person involved. So an example might be something like a dental practice, where a group of dentists have grouped together as a part of a joint business. In this situation, an important term here is the deed of partnership. So the owners all agree to the deed of partnership, and that sets how the partnership is run. It covers how much money each partner has to invest, how much capital, and then how much each partner is going to get as a share of the profits if the business makes a profit. It also sets out how decisions are going to be taken. Is there going to be a lead partner? Is there going to be a vote? What's the mechanism that's going to be? The partners between them own all the business assets and owe all business liabilities. So again, partnerships have unlimited liability. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this type of approach? Well, advantages are it's a simple way for two or more people to form a business together. There's not much paperwork involved. Often the phrase "many heads are better than one" can be in effect here. The business can benefit from the expertise of having more than one owner. Sometimes it's easier to raise finance. If you've got lots of different people joining the partnership, they can all bring a little bit of money themselves, and so you can raise finance quicker than as a sole trader. In terms of disadvantages, the profit must be shared according to the terms of the agreement. Again, there is no legal distinction between the partners in the business. The partners have unlimited liability. One partner's decision is legally binding on all other partners. So if one partner does something and the business is sued or legal action is taken against the business as a result, then that will affect all the partners. Again, partners may pay more tax than incorporated businesses. And often it's harder to raise finance than for a incorporated business that we're going to look at in the next video. So in this video, we've looked at the characteristics of sole trader and partnership businesses, and also looked at the disadvantages and advantages of each type. Thanks for listening. You deserve a rest.